Hello YouTube! Welcome to another video. Now that the beta for Lost Ark is complete and a long wait for release begins, time for me to give a review on the content I experienced. For context, I reached level 50 on my paladin in the beta, which was the max, without any knowledge about the game itself, so everything I learned about the game was from my own playtime. What is Lost Ark? Lost Ark is a free-to-play action RPG MMO from the South Korean developer Smilegate. In a sense, you can compare it to Diablo, so it plays similarly to Diablo 3 specifically. When we are talking about the gameplay perspective, it's a very spectacle action RPG with a similar rune skill system, but it goes much deeper than that, so you can compare it a bit more to Path of Exile. I think it fits in a perfect spot between where Diablo and Path of Exile are, with more theory crafting, and the way that you develop your characters is much more in-depth, closer to Path of Exile, while the game itself, the presentation and all that, is much closer to Diablo. Also, one game that you can compare it to is Sword of Legends Online, in the way that it's a Korean style of a game, so expect a bunch of menus. Honestly, for this game, the only problem I did have was how many menus there was, and I can see that pretty much being one of the reasons that some people might not like it, but overall, what I experienced, what I'm looking for, like, it's absolutely amazing. This game has so much content. You can't describe how much there is to do. I don't think even a 5-hour video would be enough, because they just keep on piling and piling and piling the amount of content that you can do. But enough about that. Let's talk about the general sense of the game. So, audio and visuals, as I said, the game itself plays similar to Diablo 3, which was, don't get me wrong, while Diablo 3 did lack a lot of things that we were expecting coming from Diablo 2, this one visually is a very beautiful game. It's very stunning, very vibrant, so many colors, so many effects. Everything is looking great. It's absolutely amazing spectacle of giblets flying all over the place when you blow things up. It's a very pretty game, okay? Very pretty game. On the audio side, there is pretty big difference between specific scenarios. While some of the boss fights and just in general some of the areas, dungeons, they have a pretty amazing dungeon like sound design. Some of them are pretty lackluster, so this one is pluses and minuses at the same time. So sometimes you don't hear music at all, sometimes you hear too much, sometimes it's just absolutely amazing, so it's all over the place, but overall, pretty good impression. As we talked about the gameplay itself, so if you played Diablo 3, pretty much everything is similar in a sense that, except you have much more abilities. You have your dodge ability, which a lot of people wanted in Diablo 3 to begin with, but this one has 8 abilities, while Diablo had 4 plus 2 on the mouse keyboard, so you have 8 here, plus your awakening skill, but overall it has much more abilities and you are forced to use your mouse for the movement. I haven't tried controller, that's also another thing that for me personally, I never play action RPGs on a controller. It just feels weird and I will never do it. But yeah, the only difference was you couldn't keybind your movement to anything else but your mouse, which I really hope is gonna be changed sometime in the future. But considering how much stuff is happening on the screen, especially in the raid environments and the dungeon environments, how much movement is involved in this game, kinda makes sense. Overall, if you played Diablo 3, it plays very similar to that. Story. Alright, I'm gonna be honest here. When it comes to story, I'm not really interested in those. When it comes to action RPGs, just give me demons, give me something to blow up, give me that shiny loot, give me legendaries. So I'm all about the progression when it comes to this kind of games. But the way that Lost Ark presents its story in such a... Honestly, I was pretty shocked and surprised how good it was. Actually, it wasn't good, it was great. So you have your spectacle. If you ever played a Final Fantasy game, this is what it felt. It felt like part of Final Fantasy, then at some parts with the cool cutscenes of fighting, more like a Dragon Ball Z that you're watching. It was amazing from start to finish. The way that they present it. Once you start the game and everything goes, so you have your standard action RPG stuff that you're doing. You have a bunch of cutscenes. Cutscenes that are divided in such a way that it doesn't really mess up with your gameplay. So you have like few maps which are separated, so you have like 7 islands all together. Like the entire map is huge. So you have 7 islands, 6 or 7 islands, I'm not really sure. And each island has a few zones on it, and in each one you don't really spend all that much time, maybe like 10, 15, 20 minutes, depending, like few quests here and there. Then you continue, you have a cutscene, if it's a dungeon, there's another cutscene in there. Everything is, when it comes to story, is just like fits so well together. And as I said, once you come to the crucial story arcs, the way that they play out are pretty epic. So you have dungeon sieges, castle sieges, then you have like assaulting the kings. Then suddenly the game throws a curveball, then you have then you turn into this small people, then you're like entering shoes, then there's like, it's like you're playing Grounded all over again. It's absolutely insane. Then at one segment it's like you're playing Final Fantasy VII assaulting on the reactors. It's going all over the place. It's very, very well done, and the way that you have your villains, which are constantly changing, new ones are added, it's pretty damn great. As I said, if you like Final Fantasy kind of a single player game, this one I would suggest to anybody, even if you are not interested in the MMO aspect of the game. Alright, now we come to the fun part, progression system. Let's just say that, you know, when I said at the beginning that 5-hour video was needed to like explain everything about this game, pretty much 4 hours would be just for the progression systems. So they keep on piling. You have so many different things. So you have your strongholds, which is basically garrison kind of a system that you have in World of Warcraft. Then you have your open world segment, sailing with your ship, which is entirely separate from like all the stuff that you're usually doing. So you can level your crew, you can level your ship, you can upgrade your ships. Then there is all these different events happening. There is so many subsystems within a systems that I think that's the biggest weakness of this game, is how much content there is. Because for a single person, this game will feel like a full-time job if you want to do everything. Like, let's be honest here, there is so many things to do, and I think that's probably its only weakness, like its biggest weakness so far. So too much stuff to do. While you don't need to do necessarily everything, there is a lot of these systems that coincide with each other. So you basically, it has gathering, it has crafting, but all of those, so if you gather, you need to like upgrade your stronghold, so you can craft in your stronghold, or you can just visit various NPCs. Then you need to do that sea stuff as well in order to upgrade the ships. So you need to do the crafting part, then you need to do gathering parts. So each one of those systems piles on each other, like they complement each other so well, but there is a lot of things to do. Then let's just talk about the character progression. So you have your normal levels, so you have your account levels. Account levels basically increase stats for everybody. People who like to make alts in this game are gonna feel right at home, because this game really promotes that kind of a playstyle, to have different alts, play different classes. Because whenever you play something new, whenever you unlock something new with a new class, it adds to your account level, it gives you buffs for pretty much everybody on that account, which is honestly pretty awesome, because these kind of games, they thrive on you having more characters, and I like playing different classes, so very, very well made in that sense. Then you have your engrams. As I said, I will not go deep into the progression, but what you expect multiplied by 10. Simple as that. Let's move on. Endgame, right, so this part I won't also stand too much, but there is a lot of things to do. Once you reach level 50 and North Vern, I think it's called, you start suddenly unlocking, like this game does it in increments that it introduces new systems, okay? Like 1, 2 stronghold is like around level 20 something, at least it was in a beta. I think that's gonna change for the full game release. Then level 35, 6, like 40, like you unlock that sailing stuff. So it's pretty like step by step. But once you get to the level 50, once you get to North Vern, suddenly you're hit by so many different things. There is so many things to do, like so many things open. So you have dungeons, you have chaos dungeons, you have towers, you have cubes. I have honestly no idea what a cube is, but it's there, so must be important. Then there is like raid bosses. There is so much things to do that Endgame feels very compelling, very inviting. At the same time, it's very like overwhelming for a new player. For me, like it took me just it took me a while just to understand like the engraving side of items. So yes, but this is the game that you need to spend like a lot of time into. So if you are a huge MMO fan, you're gonna feel right at home. While Diablo had like pretty simplified the progression, so you reach max level, that's it. Because we are talking about the MMO. You have your fishing, you have your gathering professions, then you have crafting, then you have strongholds. So all of those you have so many things to do that no matter on what you focus, you're gonna spend so much time on it. It's pretty great, but as I said, this would be the one thing that is gonna drive a lot of players away, since a lot of menus, a lot of things to navigate. Once you get used to it, it will take you a long time. But at the same time, free-to-play game with this kind of quality, with this kind of amount of content, honestly, insane. In such a good way that I'm pretty excited about this game. I can't wait for the full release. I will be doing more videos about it as well, in the forms of guides and everything, but that will gonna come later, because we are still looking at few months. And there is one more thing that I want to cover, and that is the shop. So, there was a lot of talk about this game, since we are talking about pay-to-win mechanics, a lot of gated mechanics. Honestly, for a new player who hasn't experienced the Korean or the Russian version, I can't really say much about it. All I know is our version is the only one who is gonna actually have the currency exchange system, which we don't really know too much about, but in a sense you will be able to buy everything from the in-game shop with the in-game currency. So technically you won't need to spend any money as long as you keep playing the game. How is this conversion gonna work? Is it gonna be like play for 50 hours to afford one thing, or do you need to play for 5,000 hours to afford one thing? We don't know yet, but let's hope it's gonna be the first one. The shop system itself, it's basically mostly skins. There is some kind of a stones, the way that you upgrade your equipment and all that. As I said, I haven't really touched all those systems all that much to talk about them. Most of the stuff that you can get there, you can get from gameplay. So I don't think in that sense it's gonna clash with one another. So I think we are good on the pay-to-win aspect, at least for the time being. As I said, they changed a lot of things from the Korean version, the way that, for example, you have like this subscription service which gives you a lot of benefits. It has been changed in a way that it's much less pay-to-win for our version than it is in a Korean or a Russian version. Conversion rates have not been announced yet, so we don't know. But overall, like, my experience with the shop was pretty minimal. There wasn't really too many things in there, few skins here and there, but the fact that you will be able to exchange currency, which no other version can, is giving me high hopes for it. Either way, I'm super excited about this game. So, to summarize, Lost Ark, action RPG, top down, think of Diablo, think of Path of Exile, but an MMO. With an MMO comes those crafting, gathering professions, all sorts of events happening around the map, sailing, garrison system, pretty good story with such a high quality of the way that it was presented. Like, probably the best story presentation when it comes to action RPGs, hands down. I highly recommend this game just for the single player perspective. Even if you're not interested in any of the MMO aspects, go give it a try. Otherwise, for people who enjoy heavy grinds in an action RPG, are gonna feel right at home. This game has grind on top of the grind on top of the grind on top of the systems. So many systems, so many menus. I think the one word that could pretty much explain this game is many. Many of this, many of this, many of that. There's so many things to do. But in the end, it's an absolutely great, very well made action RPG. If you are into those kind of games, do not miss on this one. I highly recommend it. I played action RPGs all my life. This one just feels a step above everything else in a way that how much things it gives you from the beginning. So one thing that I haven't mentioned is PvP. PvP is also a part of it. You know how it is with action RPGs and PvP. They don't really mix together because too many abilities, too many items, too many numbers. But it works. That's all you need to know. It works. You can try it, it's actually pretty damn fun, so give it a go. Anyway, so now that we are at the end of the video, what do you think about Lost Ark? Are you interested? What class did you play? What class do you plan to play? I will be covering a lot more about the game as we get closer to the release. For now, Crow Templar out. Hope you guys enjoyed the content, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'm gonna see you on the next one. Saluten. Bye!